That's 20.
Filipinos have spent 3 months under different levels of quarantines. Now, while the test backlog has slowed down and health services have widened testing and swabbing, the number of COVID-19 cases continue to rise. Some areas have managed to contain virus transmission, but not in the Visayas region and Metro Manila. So is the Philippines winning the war against COVID-19? We discuss in this episode of the Chiefs. And welcome to this special edition of the Chiefs. With us right now are Ana Marie Pamintuan of the Philippine Star, Lucy Cruz Valdez, the head of News 5, and Robbie Alampay of One News. Ami and Robbie are coming online in a while. I think Robbie's coming in. Yeah, Robbie's coming in from the TV5 newsroom. And we are still waiting for Ami.
Okay.
There's Ami coming in. Hello, hello.
Good evening.
Ano na, hindi natin alam ano po headline. Yung misencounter ba o yung 60,000 na projection ng UP on the number of COVID cases by July.
O yung kung mag-announce kayo ng Pangulo. Kung mag-announce kayo ng Pangulo ng ano ba, GCQ ba tayo? May isa pang yun.
Inabangan mo ba yun? Inabangan mo ba yun?
Actually, hindi. Pero nasa news yun eh.
Hindi, yung mga taga Cebu, inaabangan nila kasi sabi daw ni Interior Secretary Anyo, gusto niya ituloy pa rin yung, yung ECQ. Eh lahat doon, nahihirapan na sila sa pinakamatagal na daw yung kanilang ECQ dito sa buong, sa buong bansa eh.
Yeah, but I think you would imagine na i-recommend nilang i-extend yung ECQ sa Cebu kasi ilang araw pa lang mula nang pinadala si Mato eh. Alam mo sabihin niya hindi, pwede nang luwagan yan. Diba? They're panic mode nga now eh. That's why they set si Mato over.
So baka daw mga 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Alarming kasi just today, 1,000 plus new cases. At saka 800 plus na fresh. So,
Fresh Fresh.
Yes. That's alarming.
Pero we're winning.
Hindi naman daw ako sa 40,000.
What if you wanna? But it depends on what number you look at eh. Kasi may 46,000 na positive hindi pa lang nag-undergo ng case validation and processing, but 46,335 na nag-positive na sa test.
Yeah.
And this is RT-PCR testing.
Oo. So, kung tutusin, sumobra na, no? Sa projection. Diba?
Baka they're wondering what we're talking about here. You wanna play back the video na?
Hindi, yung UP projection yan, di ba? But they will be, well, one of them will be on one of our guests will be part of the, is part of the team actually.
Yeah, yung OCTA team ng UP. Alam mo, mga taga-UP talaga,
Okay, sa mga yan eh.
mga panggulo lang talaga, mga taga-UP yan eh.
Agitator talaga
mga agit-proof.
Siguro we can bring them in na, no?
Oo. Sige. Pero yung una nating guest ngayon, hindi taga-UP, taga-atin na yata to.
Oo. Agitator din yan.
Yan ang new agitator.
Yeah, the new kind of agitator. Nag-guest natin previously to sa the Chiefs before the lockdown pa ata eh. I don't know if we've guessed them since the lockdown. But let's bring in si Pasig Mayor Vico Sotto joining us now live from Pasig City Hall kasi may logo siya sa likod kanina.
Yes.
Mayor Sotto, are you there?
Ay, magandang gabi po sa inyo.
Good evening.
Good evening po, Mayor, and thank you po for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Mayor, unang-una po, may lumabas kasing storya you are one of the 5 top mayors in terms of COVID responses, at least as far as an NGO is concerned. It's a survey done by the RP Mission and Development Foundation, or RPD Inc. Kaya daw ang nag 86% approval rating as far as yung COVID-19 response is concerned. I suppose and marami doon sa mga nag-top na mayors, if not all, are new mayors. Many of them were new in politics, including you. I mean, at least at executive level. So ano po, why do you think you got such good ratings? Where's this coming from? Looking at all your initiatives, you have laptops and tablet budget, you have bike lanes, you have bike racks, and you have a transport loan as well.
Well, ako po, I always take surveys with a grain of salt. Lalo na kung hindi ako familiar sa methodology nila. Although hindi siguro maiwasan, may mga nagsisend sa akin, so nakikita ko rin siya. But as much as possible, I really don't pay attention to those surveys. But with that said, I am proud of how we have handled, this whole pandemic. Obviously not perfect. There's still a lot of areas for improvement. But overall, definitely I think we have a passing grade here in Pasig. We can't really say na talagang magaling na magaling dahil may namamatay pa rin eh. Every life count. Hindi ko, as far as survey is concerned, hindi ko masyado naiintindihan.
Mayor, that's a good way of looking at it. Pero let me zoom in on one in particular. Yung inyong you were able, I think, to raise more than 1 billion pesos for laptops and tablets for your constituents who are going to school. Tell us about that. How did you come up with the money? How were you able to raise it? And how do you intend to spend it?
Siguro, instead of using the word raise, I would use the word we found over 1 billion pesos. Nakapag-identify po kami ng basically ito yung mga na-save namin from last year. Because last year, siguro tama lang din yung timing of everything. Marami kaming infrastructure projects from last year that we really didn't continue first because my focus was on cleaning up the government in my first year of government, first year of our administration. So wala kami masyadong nagastos sa infrastructure projects. Buti na lang kasi ngayong 2020, ngayong COVID season, COVID-19 pandemic, may panggastos kami. So it was a lot of reshuffling everything, seeing what else we could cancel, especially the smaller projects and programs. But long story short, we were able to identify around almost 1.3 billion pesos for tablets.
Mayor,
But
how many students and teachers do you have to supply these gadgets to?
Off the top of my head, we have 168,000 students. I might be off. I'm not sure about the exact number. Pero mga 168,000 yun. Plus several thousand teachers. So yun, pag dinivide nyo, that should amount to around 8,000 pesos per person na bibigyan po namin ng tablet.
So sapat na yun?
Yes, sapat na po yun. Kung kayo sa tindahan, an 8,000 peso tablet is
okay na yun.
Ayos na po. Decent, it has enough hard drive space, mabilis na po yun. Hindi naman siya pang games eh. Although kahit sa totoo games kaya niya, pero hindi naman yun yung purpose. Of course, DepEd is the lead agency here. We will, kung ano yung specifications na binigay po nila sa amin, yun yung namin, yun yung pinablish namin.
Yeah, but it's the question is, how will you distribute it, first of all? Kasi yung SAP, di ba, nagkagulo-gulo ron. Dito,
hirap po talaga.
How the distribution will be? Will it be one-to-one? Or
yes, one-to-one
family?
One tablet per student. Per student. One family per student. Medyo mahirap pa rin yung distribution. Pero compared to SAP, mas madali po ito. Kasi yung sa SAP, syempre may hindi nabigyan na tingin nila dapat kwalipikado din sila, dapat makakuha din sila. Ito naman, lahat ng students makakuha. So, hindi magulo ito.
Oo. So yung content na lang ang question, no? I mean, how to basically translate the content of the textbooks and the, anong tawag doon, lesson plan.
Yung mga modules, yes. Nakita ko po yung mga initial, of course, DepEd na po ito, but I'm happy to say that our division here in Pasig, led by SDS Agustin, very proactive. Nakita ko na yung ibang mga module nila. They showed me some samples. Maganda kung ikaw yung estudyante. Of course, face-to-face is still, yung talagang pinakamaganda. Pero nakita ko po yung mga videos, yung mga video lectures ng mga ibang teachers. Maganda. Entertaining. Hindi yung basta-basta ka na maiinip. Maganda.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, apart from the school year, pinaghahandaan din ng mga local government ngayon, especially in Metro Manila, yung pagbabalik ng jeepneys. Even in secondary routes, mukhang marami-rami yun in your city. Ano pong klaseng paghahanda ang ginagawa nyo to prevent the jeepneys to encourage them to comply with the health protocols? Kasi dati nag-umpisa kayo, nanguna kayo sa pagbabalik ng tricycle, although nagkaroon ng controversy yun. I'm sure you're in favor of having the jeepneys return to the streets, especially in your city. Pero yung iba nag-aalala din siyempre about the health compliance ng mga jeepney operators and drivers. Ano yung, baka meron ba kayong mga particular programs sa Pasig to ensure na safe yun kung babalik sila?
Well, first, I just want to say that we will follow the lead of the OTR, LTFRB, or national government agencies. But if we see how, when we resumed operations of tricycles here in Pasig, everyone complied with the health safety requirements. We gave them disinfectants and plastics for the sidecars to separate it from the driver. Naging maayos po. Lahat naman pag sinabihan sila at naintindihan naman nila kung bakit, nagko-comply naman po yung mga driver natin, yung mga TODA. It will be the same with our mga JODA.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Mayor, in the meantime, we're getting a lot of reports of a lot of drivers saying that kahit payagan silang tumakbo, hindi sila makatakbo because of course there's that dilemma na wala ring sumasakay. How are we addressing it on that side?
Medyo nag-choppy po kayo sa dulo, but I think you're saying hindi kakayanin kasi hindi na sila kikita. Tama po ba? Nag-choppy po sa dulo. Yes. This is a reality. Kung kailangan i-impose talaga yung social distancing, baka hindi. Kami naman po, sa tricycle, pwede namin payagan na mas mataas yung singilin nila. Pero sa jeep, wala kaming authority to do that. So we will wait for the guidelines and kung ano yung sabihin sa amin. Pero, well, we'll do what we can. Pero, alam niyo po, ngayon, yan ang pinakamalaking challenge dito sa Pasig, yung kakulangan ng pampublikong transportasyon. Kaya naiipon yung mga, syempre, papasok na yung mga tao eh. Pumapasok na po sila. Problema, kulang ang masasakyan nila. But we have been working very closely with the national government agencies. Yung Kalentong Pasig route, meron na. So may mga ganun po. So, pero again, we will follow the lead of the national government agencies.
Mayor, let me pick your brains lang on the modernized jeepney versus the traditional. Saan po kayo ron? Where do you stand?
Well, I don't stand in either. Basta kami, implementation naman eh. As mayor, kung ano po yung directive, syempre sumusunod kami as an LGU. That's not me playing safe. It's just the reality. Kung ano yung sabihin sa amin, talagang magko-comply kami sa directives. Now, of course, whatever happens, if we will shift towards modernization, kailangan gumawa tayo ng programa para sa kabuhayan ng mga mawawalan ng trabaho. We need to provide some sort of livelihood program for those who will not be absorbed.
Yeah, kasi sa ibang lugar talagang nagmamalimos na yung mga jeepney driver, no?
Sa ngayon po kasi, syempre, ang tagal na nilang walang kita eh.
Yes. So how is it in your city?
We've tried to give them what we can. So, dito po sa Pasig, meron kaming una yung supplemental SAP, pero yun para sa lahat po ng pamilya sa Pasig. Ano, halos tapos na po kami dyan. 94, around 90+% ng pamilya Pasigenyo. Kung hindi nakatanggap from DSWD or other national programs, nakakuha po sila ng Pasig supplemental SAP. Para naman po sa mga jeepney drivers in particular, also tricycle drivers, yung mga Soda, Joda po natin, pati UV Express, meron kaming binigay na financial assistance na 4,000 pesos each. So, alam ko po kulang din yun, sa ilang linggo na walang trabaho, walang kita yung mga mamamayan na pero we're all doing the best that we can. And we will continue to help as we can.
Kumusta naman po
Mayor
yung
na-
bicycle lanes?
Mm.
Di ba maganda din yung program nyo doon eh? Meron bang additional program yun to expand? Kumusta yung reaction ng mga tao? Saka magdadagdag ba kayo ng mga areas allotted to? Kasi ang dami-dami ng bicycles ngayon.
Bicycle lanes, yes. 3 phases po ang bicycle lane program po namin. And when we say bicycle lane, kasama po dito yung mga e-scooter and other alternative modes of transport, yung mga maliliit. So 3 phases. First phase was the pop-up bike lanes. Ginawa po namin ito simula nung ECQ pa. Ang hirap ng pop-up bike lanes kasi buurong siya, di mo maiwasan. But phase 2, ongoing po, nagsimula na pero pinagpapatuloy pa namin yung painted bike lanes. Phase 3 will be the extended high priority corridor for bicycles. Ito po yung mga protected bike lanes na. So mula Marcos Highway hanggang C. Raimundo, hanggang Pasig, yung Old Town, dire-diretso po yan. So these will be protected bike lanes. And
Mayor,
the program, yung bike racks na nabanggit kanina ni Sir Ed.
Mayor, do you have any estimate on how many people are already using the bike lanes? And more importantly, of course, the safety matter is legitimate. Some other LGUs are saying they're hesitant kasi concerned sila sa ano. But ano yung reflection nyo on bikes? What are you learning about the efficiency, the effectiveness, and the safety? And more importantly, what are you learning about how people are behaving once you have bike lanes?
Number one, the shift of some people, if not many people, to bicycles is inevitable. Hindi po may iwasan yan. Lalo na kapag nahihirapan sila sa pampublikong transportasyon, pag sobra-sobra yung traffic, kaya naman nila mag-bike papunta dun sa trabaho nila o pauwi, gagawin po yan ng mga tao. So, pangalawa, dapat ang pamahalaan gumawa ng paraan para mas maging ligtas po sila habang nagbibikleta sila. And that's exactly why in our phase 3, we're focused on protected bike lanes.
Ilang kilometro na po? Kung pagsasamahin niyo yung phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, ilang kilometro na po nabuo niyo dyan?
I don't know offhand. I would have to ask our Pasig Transport for the exact number. Pero medyo marami ng streets yung sa painted. Pero again, kahit naman painted, aminin natin, delikado pa rin eh. Kaya kailangan talaga protected. So kung ilang kilometers yung galing Paamang Rodriguez, from the Marcos Highway area all the way to dito sa may City Hall, kasi itutuloy-tuloy namin yun. Medyo mahaba rin po siya.
Kumusta na yung revival ng businesses sa city? Kasi maraming nagbubukas pero nagrereklamo yung mga negosyante na kukunti pa rin yung customer, kapareho ng mga salon, natatakot pa rin daw yung mga tao sa kanila, yung mga dine-in restaurants, natatakot pa rin. How is it going in your city? And are you planning any program to revive, to add to measures to revive businesses?
Yes, well, mahirap po talaga, ano, kahit ako, ayokong kumain ng dine-in, eh. Nakakatakot din talaga at hindi pa tayo safe na safe. Marami pa ring kaso ng COVID sa buong Metro Manila.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't recommend to anyone mag-dine in o kumain ng dine-in. So sorry to the businesses that will be affected with what I'm saying, no? Pero yun na yung reality. Dito sa Pasig, karamihan ng mga negosyo nagbukas na ulit. But we always remind them to comply with the minimum health and safety standards. Every day we close several businesses or at least suspend them. Pag may nahuli kami, halimbawa may isang yung iba hindi ko na rin pinapost kasi kawawa naman baka negative advertising pa for them. Basta i-suspend lang namin ng 1 week. Okay na yun para makapag-comply sila. Minsan kasi employee hindi nakamask o mali yung pag-calibrate nila for social distancing ng mga table, sinususpend po talaga namin ng 1 linggo.
Pero nakaka-curious, paano ba ang decision-making process ninyo dyan? Sino-sino na kasama mo? Sino-sino ang team members mo? And how are you able to actually keep going despite these very, very difficult times?
Well, ang kakaiba dito sa COVID-19 and this crisis is that first time tayo at least sa kasaysayan or in our lifetimes at least first time nagkaroon ng crisis na ganito kalaki na lahat talaga across the board affected negatively. But we're blessed here in Pasig that we have a very strong team. Again, not perfect, a lot of things to improve on, but we have experts from different fields, kung health issue or health concerns, we ask our doctors. Everyone is doing their overtime. Everyone is going above and beyond the call of duty. So I'm very blessed as mayor. Most of the decisions here, even if I might make the final decision, because a lot of consultation. Kung sino yung eksperto sa field, yun yung tinatanong namin, and everyone is consulted.
It must be some kind of baptism of fire for you, no? But on your first term as mayor,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Pero tingin ko para sa lahat naman ng mayor, even yung mga nakausap ko na 3-term, 6-term mayor, lahat sila pareho nang sinasabi, this is something different. Wala akong, di ba, hindi ito yung tipo ng crisis na, kunwari, may baha, o may lindol, may sunog. Pwede akong tumawag sa ibang mayor. Mayor, ano yung ginawa niyo dati nung nagkaroon ng ganito? May ganun, sabi ko, pero ito wala talaga. Lahat kami nakakapadin, lahat kami ay bago sa sitwasyong ito.
Pero may baka I think yung gustong tubukin ni Luchi is give us an idea of your inner circle, your team of advisors. Are they as young as you are? Kasi karamihan sa mga mayor, pag old time ang mayor, like, yung mga tao niya sa paligid, kaututang dila pa niya yung panahon na kung saan siya nanggaling. And that's why typically you would have the same kind of politics, the same kind of processes of these traditional mayors.
Well, that was the first thing that I did before I assumed office. Actually, interestingly enough, today is the exact tawag dun, anniversary. But it's 1 year exact from 2019. One of the first things that I did after the elections was to assemble a strong team. So iba't ibang klaseng tao to. May karamihan ay mas bata, pero meron din kaming senior citizen, iba-iba. Meron kaming experience sa local government, merong bago sa local government. But as I always say, I only have 2 qualifications with people who work for me. This is the type of people that I look for before I assumed office. Una, dapat tapat, may integridad. Everything else can be learned, everything else can be taught, pero kailangan may integridad, strong character. And pangalawa, dapat mahusay, yung talent and skills. So, yun lang po. And I'm thankful that we were able to assemble a good team.
Yes. Mayor, last na lang. Yung pagka-single blessedness nyo ba, Is it an advantage or is it a disadvantage during this time? I'm just wondering.
Advantage siguro.
Wala kayong naalala ng mga bata, ano? Malaking bagay yun.
Siguro ang pinaka-key doon, wala akong mga anak. So, kahit nandito ako hanggang alas 10 ng gabi, hanggang hating gabi, wala naghahanap sa akin.
Pero sabi ng dati niyo, dapat maghanap na raw kayo.
Mayor, bakit yung anak lang ninyo maghahanap sa inyo? Dapat yung asawa, di ba?
Di ko alam, wala naman ang asawa.
Anyway, maraming salamat po. Mayor Vico Sotto ng Pasig. Thank you very much po for joining us tonight.
Maraming salamat po sa inyo.
Thank
Ingat
you.
po.
Salamat po.
Thank you po. We will just go into a break, so please stay with us.
Welcome back to the Chiefs here on One News. We are now in the final stage of our conversation, and joining us are Professors Ranjit Rye and Professor Guido David of UP and Reverend Father Nicanor Austriaco of UST. They are all fellows of the UP OCTA research, which has regularly released projections of COVID cases in the country, as well as policy recommendations. But before we proceed, let's listen to Presidential Spokesman Harry Roque.
We beat the UP prediction po. We beat it. So congratulations, Philippines. Let's do it again in July.
Okay, good evening, gentlemen.
Ito na yung mga talunan. Ito na yung mga talunan.
Oh, this is the post-game interview.
Pero si Father UST eh. Si Father UST eh.
Oh, yeah.
Medyo konti lang naman, no? Between the 40,000 saka yung sinasite nilang figure. But anyway, anong reaction nyo doon? We beat the UP projections. Professor Ranjit, siguro, we start with you.
Well, this is not this has never been a game for us, and we've always produced data really in the service to the people and of our government, and we would expect Secretary Harry's appreciation of the data, but we stand by our forecast. I think we missed it by less than 6%, which for any modular forecast is kind of good, no? But we're also very sad that we have at this point reached this far. For the last 2 weeks, we've been urging government for timely and an adequate response, and for us to all come together, and step up our own response as a people against the pandemic. And when we did this forecast, we were, I think, I don't know, Guido, you correct me, something like 24,000 cases. So we had over more than 10,000 cases in 2 weeks. This is not something to be happy about. And maybe while we respect the exuberance and triumphalism of our very hardworking and burdened spokesperson, Harry Roque, also alumnus of UP, that we should be more cautious. And the messaging is that the pandemic is here, it's spreading, we all need to work together, and there's so much more work to be done.
Okay. Professor David, I just wanted to ask, and I agree. In fairness to Harry Roque, I do believe you'd want to grasp at to pick at any good news that you can get right now. I think that's the context they try to rally. They're trying to rally the spirits of the people here. But statistically speaking, Professor David, we just want to know. Professor Rye mentioned it's just off by 6%. But what does that mean in terms of your findings, your projections, and the statistics? If it's off by 6%, does it matter?
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Robbie. And I think Father Nicanor also wants to say something about this, so I'll let him speak after me. The 6%. It's not. I mean, this is not really like a stock prediction. I mean, you gain money by hitting the mark or how far away you are. It's about a projection. Now, if we project this, it's based on the current trend, and if we reach the projection, that means it hasn't changed much, or it hasn't changed if we reach the same target. And if we so it's more like a barometer, and if we do perform much better than the projection, which is actually what we want. For example, instead of hindi natin hitting 40,000, we hit something like 30,000 cases. Then it's a good sign for us kasi that means we're actually flattening the curve kung talagang mababa yung numbers. Because right now, the RNAP is it's close to 1. It's greater than 1, but it's close to 1. So we're not that far from flattening the curve kung mapababa lang natin yung number of cases. So yun nga. In terms of, kunyari, if you're evaluating a projection or a forecast, within 10% is probably acceptable. But this is not really a prediction in the sense that we're trying to hit something. This is more like a barometer.
Father Nick.
So I think it's important that we emphasize that we are not. It's more important to look at a trend rather than a target. And the concern I think that many of us have is that the trend is going up. So if it was 38,000, but the trend is going down, that is so much better than 38,000 and the trend is going up. So, I always tell my students when I teach this, I say it's important to look at the trend, not a single number, but you look in the last few weeks, what is the trend of the cases? Another thing, I think someone mentioned this in the pre-show, I was just looking at the DOH, the COVID tracker. There are 46,335
Yes, Father.
positive individuals in the Philippines.
Yes.
So how are we counting cases? If there are 46,000 individuals who were positive for COVID, but there are only 38,000 that are validated, which number is more representative of the pandemic that is happening in the country?
Okay.
I suppose, professors and Father, I suppose people should be reminded that what you're looking at really are mathematical models based on the trends. So you're not really hitting a specific number. You're looking at the pattern or the trend of the numbers. So in which case, I suppose whether or not you hit the exact 40,000 is not really that important as whether or not your estimations are valid and your assessments are valid.
I'm sorry, I cannot hear.
Well, let me put it this way, professors and Father, what are the implications of the numbers that we have seen? More or less, we're hitting 40, or maybe we're even above 46,000 if you go by the positive cases. What does this tell us as far as our response? You issued this warning as early as I think June 10 or June 12, and still we almost hit that number, or even went beyond that number. So did we take the steps that we should have taken in order not to hit that number?
Yes. Yes, I will. Maybe I will address that first. First thing is actually, in fairness, naman, we were aware of this backlog already of about 8,000 cases back in June 8 or June 12 when we made the forecast or the projection. So it's more like yung target niya, or not the target, but like the trend and where the projection meet. And I think one of the major factors that happened here, and I think government has to look at this, is the trend slightly slowed down. We can say it slowed down because it didn't reach the 40,000, but it slightly slowed down because of what happened in Cebu. We reverted Cebu back to ECQ. And I think that helped slow down the pandemic. And I think that was a good move by the government. Because if we didn't do that, I think the number of cases sa Cebu would have risen and it could have produced, let's say, 3,000 more cases or 4,000 more cases. And then we would say we are over the projection. And that means it did worse because we were not able to manage the spread in Cebu. So in some sense, there is a positive here because the government made some right decisions, pero we need a lot more, more positives to be able to beat this virus.
Okay, Professor Rye, since nabanggit na lang din yung Cebu, I'm just wondering, are you at that point now that you could parse the data regionally, and can you identify trends beyond the national numbers that we're looking at? Are there trends that is of particular interest or particular concern for you on a regional level?
Well, I think the focus now of all our attention is Cebu. And we had predicted this 2 forecasts ago. That's about a month ago. We've been already observing it, and we've always placed Cebu as a moderate to high risk area. And we've been pointing out that while we've been scaling up test, trace, and treat in NCR, that it was important for us to do so everywhere else, and especially in the hotspots. So-called, and at that time we were projecting it, we were studying it. We were looking at Davao and Cebu, and of course today, and as we all know, trends change, as Father rightly pointed out. No? And because of mobility, we now have some upticks. Okay, in areas like Leyte, okay, Bulacan, okay, Calabarzon. But still, we in our team, and maybe Father can build on this. Transmissions, have gone up, and there are two possible. There are, I think, three possible explanations. One is, of course, we're testing more. Not enough, but certainly we're testing 10 or 20 times more. Okay, and that we're creating a lot more new cases because of that. A second, of course, is the real surge in Cebu, where there are new cases and it's a cause for concern. Okay, and third, in other places around, is because again, mobility, proximity, and non-compliance with health protocols have also caused, a increase in the number of COVID cases all around the country, and that's what we observed also. It's not just anymore in, I mean, certain places which didn't have COVID cases now had cases in this latest forecast. I mean, not much, but it's also alarming that we failed to monitor, and places like Lanao didn't have cases. Ilocos Sur, Ilocos Norte now have cases. So the movement enabled by our ECQ, MECQ, I'm sorry, the shift from MECQ to GCQ, the loosening up has also enabled movement from NCR and Calabarzon up north. And because pandemic monitoring is weak, a number of cases have already gone up in certain areas where the cases did not exist, like Isabela. So these are something where we need to inform government, and I think they know it, and more work has to be done. I think Father can he's also been observing NCR a lot more than we have. Father?
So I think that I'm going to reintroduce the notion of positivity test, the positivity rate, which is the percentage of tests that are positive. And I think this, when you look at the trends in the positivity rate, it compensates for changes in the capacity for testing. So
Okay.
in Cebu, for example, in the last few weeks, the positivity rate has exploded. So we know that there is a true surge that is going on in Region 7, particularly in Cebu. Now, in the NCR, what is striking is that there have been increases in number of tests, but in the last 2 weeks also, you see an uptick in the positivity rate. It's not of concern yet, but we have to be very careful. Now,
Father, if you don't mind, just to give us a better grasp of that, what are the numbers, for example, what are the positivity rates between Cebu and Metro Manila at this point, just so we have an idea of what you're talking about.
So so one of the reasons why it's very difficult to get an precise positivity rate for Cebu is I'm not exactly sure, based on the public data, which labs are testing just Cebu. But what I did yesterday is I looked at the labs that were in Cebu, and I asked, what is the change in positivity rate? So we're dealing with a positivity rate that's above 20% for some laboratories in Cebu. To give you a sense, in Manila, it's about 8%. So you can really see there's a huge spread because we are sampling more and we're getting more tests, positive tests.
Well, now the government is sending the cavalry to Cebu, no? And people in the city in particular are worried about how long the ECQ will last. Considering what you're seeing now, how they are enforcing the health protocols, how long might this last? Because it took Metro Manila about over 2 months to get out of ECQ, and then the Cebuanos are worried. How long will it take for them to get out of ECQ?
So one of the things that's striking is that last week, the city of Cebu revoked 200,000 quarantine passes out of a total of 900,000 people. That means that in this quarantine, 1 in 5 were able to to move around. So it's not surprising that the pandemic was much more porous than it was here in Manila. So in terms of number of how long it will be, you have to think about incubation periods. So the incubation period for COVID is 2 weeks. So that's why it has to be in 2 week periods. And I'm guessing just like in Manila with a surge, it will take at least 2 more incubation periods before the numbers are sufficiently down that the positivity rate drops below 10, if not below 5.
Are you also monitoring
So just to add,
Okay. Please, Professor Rye.
yeah, just to give an idea for our listeners, no, if it's normally in percent, and the best practice is if the positivity rate is below 10, you're going to be seeing a flattening of the curve. And if it actually is below 5, no, and if progressively going down, you're seeing a flattening of the curve, and the virus is becoming slowly managed. So to give you an idea, in Metro Manila, NCR, out of 100 tests, something like between 6 to 8 tests positive. In Cebu
3%.
today, out of 100, 20. So it's
Yes,
really,
but Professor Rai,
incredible the difference, no? And it's a pandemic is out of control. So to build on what Father was saying, the government was right in imposing an ECQ there.
yeah,
Okay,
but Professor Rai, good lang sa
and
number na.
incubation cycles, pretty sound. I think it will be, but of course, in this next decision of the president, most likely he'll extend it to another 15 days.
Yeah, but Professor Rai, if you don't mind, on the 6 to 8% that you're reporting for Metro Manila, how does that compare to the positivity rate of Metro Manila, let's say a month or 2 months ago?
So I can answer that.
Professor David, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Father, yeah, go ahead.
So basically, for the last month and a half, the positivity rate for Manila has been around 5 to 7. It has been only in the last week has it begun to hit 8 and 9 again,
So
consistently.
it's still going up. So it's
Well, that's
still
my
going
point.
up.
In the last 2 weeks, you can see a trend
Yeah.
going up, which is why I really hope the president does not shift GCQ to MGCQ tomorrow,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
We need one more incubation period to get that positivity rate down. And you can do that with these focused, targeted lockdowns, because there's a difference between the virus spreading within a barangay that is locked in, and it's spreading, and you can identify people, versus it is spreading in an unknown sense throughout the NCR. So hopefully, what we see here is that the government will give us 2 more weeks, and then by these focused lockdowns, these targeted lockdowns, we will drop that positivity rate.
Are you also monitoring the situation in Mindanao? Because they're saying that cases are on the rise in 9 Mindanao provinces,
Yes,
especially in the region, Soxargen, and northern Mindanao.
yes, actually, a few reports ago, the hotspots in Mindanao were Zamboanga City and Davao City, and Professor Ranjit knows that because we've been working on that. But right now, actually, Davao City is actually contained, I think, and also Zamboanga City. So they have managed it through some measures that they imposed on that. So the mayors, maybe the governors. But in other parts of Mindanao, there actually has been a rise in cases. So in fact, we have upped the risk assessment for Agusan del Norte to medium risk, and it's almost medium high, and also Lanao del Norte and Lanao del Sur, and also Misamis. So a lot of these places where they didn't have the virus before, or they only had a few cases, now they have a significant number of cases, and I think they have to monitor that.
You think the Balik Provincia had something to do with it? Because that's what, well, some sectors are saying, some sectors are blaming that. Or the Hatid province, the return of people to the provinces.
I think in general, mobility is an important vector, no, apart from proximity for the virus, no, and we've opened up. We were in ECQ for a long time, and we kept numbers manageable. But as we all know, ECQs are not sustainable, and the economy suffered. So as we opened up, it's expected that there will be some sort of increase, no, in transmission. But like what Father is saying, Metro Manila was already, the positivity rate was going down. From the from MECQ, no, and there was a trend going down, and then suddenly it's going up. Now that means it's not just about testing that the numbers we're seeing increasing. It's actually the virus spreading and creating new cases, no. And that's why our basic tone in the policy brief was not of exuberance, no, but of caution.
Yeah.
Not panic, no, but caution. We want the government to be concerned about these changes that are happening because at the moment the numbers are manageable. But when the Cebu case study is so instructive, as I told you 2 episodes ago, because it teaches us, it tells us, it's a lesson. If we become complacent, this is what can happen. And what can happen can be so gargantuan that the health, we now know an example of how the health system becomes overloaded. In Cebu, the heroic doctors there are having a hard time, and nurses. Quite a number of them are already sick. That's why the government response to ECQ and sending doctors and equipment there was the appropriate response. Because right now, and Guido, I don't know, brother Guido, no, the numbers are, while the R is still high, it has actually gone down ever since the ECQ. And we're seeing that it might go down even more, as Father predicted, if we extend this for 1 or 2 cycles more.
Okay, Professor David, as mentioned also by Father Nick, we are expecting an announcement from the President. We are expecting the new declarations and any adjustment whatsoever if there's anything forthcoming. But notwithstanding that, and as we wait for that, let's spend the last few minutes talking about what you see happening over the next few weeks. Is there a new projection? With the disclaimer that we're still waiting for what the president will direct.
Yes, we usually make the projections, and it's based on the current trends. And our projections on the lower end is about 60,000 cases by end of July. And this is not to be alarmist. This is just based on the trend. It's just a number that we projected.
Yeah.
So we hope that we will not reach this number.
But Prof, you're saying that's the lower end. Prof, you're saying that's the lower end. What's the higher end?
I mean, the range is from 60 to 70,000, actually. I mean, if you're going with we're not lowballing the projection para manalo kami against kay Harry Roque. Because you can always say that you can lowball your projection and say, okay, this time we beat Harry Roque. It's not a game. This is the actual numbers. And this is the lower end of the projection based on the lower end of the projection. But it's not yet flattening based on this projection. But if it does flatten and it becomes contained, then we're more than happy. I mean, we're going to have a virtual toast here when we flatten the curve. We're going to drink that and everything.
But Father Nick, going to what you said, that it takes 2 weeks for us to see where we are 2 weeks ago. These projections are really independent of what the president might say tonight. I mean, and as Professor David emphasized, this is based on existing trends. So no matter what the president said tonight.
Absolutely. The projection today is based on today. So between today and the end of July, any changes to quarantine, any changes to the way that we manage mobility of people is going to either increase or decrease the numbers. So again, a projection is like a light. You can see into the darkness. Sometimes the projection is bright and you can really see far. Sometimes it's not. If the data is poor, the projection has a lot of statistical variance. So the light is not as bright, but it is always better than moving forward with no light. So the projections help us to see where we are going and what we can try to avoid.
Professor's father, you've talked about the range of 60 to 70,000 by the end of next month, positivity rate going up gradually. And also you mentioned that you're hoping that we don't loosen up too soon. But my question is, given the numbers that you've been talking about, your 60 to 70,000, should we be tightening up some more? For example, Metro Manila.
Yes. We don't think we should revert back to ECQ, for example, in Metro Manila. We think we should retain the status quo, at least as far as getting more data and getting this incubation period that Father talked about. Yung numbers naman sa Metro Manila, they're not terribly bad. I mean, we're just our knot is just a little above 1. So we're actually very close na to flattening the curve. And yung mga drivers ng pandemic right now are in Cebu. And if we can manage that, and then manage Metro Manila, we'll be over this, and we could be following our Asian neighbors, which are doing very well right now.
Mhm. Well, I asked about that kasi kahit pa paano, over the past 3 months, we've been so used to thousands in numbers in the thousands being tossed around. You can't tell anymore na should we be alarmed with 60 to 70,000 or is it manageable?
I think the position we've taken is that we should treat this trend with caution, and it's a serious cause for concern. At 40,000, I think all of us are in agreement we can manage this, no? And given the fact that the geographically, spatially, much of it is in Cebu, no, in the Visayas area, we can still manage this. But as we go from that to 70,000, then there will be a burden on our health system. And that was what we were trying to sign, signal, no, that doing more of the same from a policy standpoint is not going to cut it. We have to do something drastic. So one is we're looking at trends. Second is we're looking at interventions. If those things don't change, we're likely to see these numbers balloon to this much. So it's incumbent on us to reflect on our strategy, both as people who manage risk, as citizens, and also as government trying to manage this pandemic. And the best science around the world that we can learn that's been telling us, number one, we have to do test, trace, isolate, and treat on a scaled up manner and better than what we've been doing in the last 2 months. And that's what the best science in the world is telling us. What was the most important lessons we've learned from our neighbors? That we can curb this pandemic. We can buck the trends. We can manage. We can lower down transmission, but we can only lower it down in a context where government, civil society, and the private sector work together. Unless we come together and step up our game, no, in the Harry Roque sense, no, okay, we will not see a significant, development as far as our management of the pandemic. Something has to change. We can't do business as usual. What we've been doing, that's what we've been trying to reflect in our own policy brief. Now, maybe we have to look at what's working as far as our strategies. 100 days is enough time for us to assess what we're doing, what's working, and what's not. It seems to be what's working is citizens involved in the process, hand washing, PPEs, and of course, physical distance. What seems to be working is if we get more tests out, we will get a better picture. That light that Father was talking about, we'll get a bigger light and get a bigger, a clearer picture of where the pandemic is. And those things we need to focus on together as a country. This is our own. We need to step up. Okay, and that's serious. This situation is a serious cause for concern. We can't, trivialize it. No, we have to focus together as a country to deal with this pandemic. And I'm confident we can.
One last
Okay.
na lang. Is the revival of mass transportation a matter of concern for you, especially UV Express and the jeepneys? They will be revived, I think, in a few days.
I think Father has some data on that.
Yes.
So mobility. So currently, if you look at the Apple mobility data and the Google mobility data for the Manila, I've been focusing on Manila. It's about 50% of what it was before COVID, and the public transportation is only 30% of what it was before COVID. So there's going to be an increase. And again, when you increase mobility, you're feeding the virus more food because the virus is going to come into contact with more people who are susceptible. However, I was listening to the mayor of Pasig before our segment, and he is correct. It's about trying to figure out how to keep people safe, right? And so, are there ways that we can be imaginative and creative to restore jeepneys and UV Express in a way that minimizes what is called super spreaders, where one person is spreading to 10, 20, 30, 40 people? That's really what you have to try to prevent.
Okay.
Okay. Maraming salamat po, Professor Ranjit Rye, Professor Guido David, and Father Nicanor Austriaco of USC. Thank you very much po for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for tonight. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account at signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime and anywhere. That will be all for this edition of the Chiefs. We hope to discuss. We'll keep the conversation going. I'm Edwin Gao, One News.
I'm Ami Paminton of the Philippine Star.
I'm Robbie Alampay, and we are One News.